Howdy. Hey, it's Backlit Friday. That's what we're calling it. Look at that. If I go like that, I'm not backlit. If I go like that, I am. How about that? So on Backlit Friday, any of your questions and stuff, and I have some. I've got a lot of throat clearing to do. There's no way to turn the. Look at that. Now I'm backlit. Now I'm not. I wish I could turn the text up. Anyway. So the first piece of equipment I'm going to show you today is called a clamp. Clamp. You can pick these up at Harbor Freight. So first piece of good news, the High Cap Magazine turn-in, which I know you were all getting ready tomorrow morning. By the way, I know you were all getting ready tomorrow morning to go turn in your high cap magazines of various manufacturers. You can hold off on that because there's been a delay on that. There's been a court challenge, and Gavin Newsom swears that the court challenge will be overturned. So hey, if Gavin says it, you know it must be true. But this is my Gavin Newsom hat, because whenever Gavin speaks, I just go like, I just put those in, see, like that. And then when I don't need them, I just go like this. So, what's not working? Don't just say not working. What's not working? And also, there's a look at that back. Now I'm not backlit. Now I'm backlit. No, I'm not backlit. There's a fire going on somewhere because I'm seeing a lot of red tails, a lot of CAL FIRE flying out of here. Yeah, when you get out thought by Kimberly Guilfoyle, yeah, you know you got problems. So I've got a lot of gear to share with you today. You know, in the summer, if you're out camping and stuff. Whoop. It's a great time to check like your survival gear and things like that. And it's funny, people mock me. You think I'm kidding about having an anemometer, but yeah, I have an anemometer. Gives me the temp. Let me change it to Fahrenheit. Again, I'm sitting here. It's 100 degrees with zero wind. So, see, that brings it down to 100.1. So anyway, yeah, when I go camping, I always take an anemometer with me. So yeah. By the way, can you? I'm on a mic. Does this make a difference? Is that the way to go? Okay. So camping gear, and you can throw whatever questions you want at me about whatever. So anyway, the High Cap Magazine ban is put off until further notice. So there you go. This is one of my favorite little bits of gear. The Swiss Nachtkocher 71. This is from the incomparable survival country called Switzerland, and this is a really cool little unit. You can go camping with them, but I recommend. It's similar to Sterno, but this is more denatured alcohol based than Sterno. And these are supers. This is like the simplest goddamn way to make a fire, short of lighting a piece of paper. With this thing, you first take this baby off. That's going to be the stand for your kettle. You unscrew the top, Now you cut that foil out. This thing was sealed in like 1971. You cut that foil out and you light what's in there. It's a gel with alcohol. But before you do that, you take this and you go, doot, like that. And that is what your heating pot sits on, like so. So they're really, really cool. When you're done, when you have the water boiling, and that's all you want to do is like make instant food or whatever, you take this thing off, you put this back on, put the fire out, and seal it back up. It's got a rubber seal, and it's meant to be closed up. This, by the way, by itself will last about an hour, but be economical with it, and you can add denatured alcohol to it and extend the life. Denatured alcohol also comes in the form at auto parts stores. If you buy Heat, HEET, that stuff, I could show you a bottle, but I'd have to walk over there. I'll walk, but you know what I'm talking about. It's yellow with blue letters. It says Heat. You know what? I'll go get it. All right. You know, this stuff right here, right? This is denatured alcohol. Do not buy the red stuff. The red stuff has other petroleum products in it, and it creates a black smoke. So, yeah, I know. They use any kind of denatured alcohol. So, anyway, these are fun to go camping with, really, really light. A lot of people, go really complex. I do have a... it's a lot like, what's it called? Sure. What's it called? What the hell is that called? It's like that other stove that has this sort of proprietary baffle on the bottom. Jet fuel. Is that it? Jetboil. That's right. Jetboil. That's the brand name of the other one. The first one. This is an Optimus system, and it also operates on on a butane thing. And it comes like this because the stove is right there. You go like this. You unfold that motherfucker like that, and then you go doot, and then you fold these babies out like this. See, they are curved. Yeah, the MSR reactor is another one. And these are frightfully simple, old boy. Screw them on like that. Turn that off. Light it. That's your stand. Fill it with water. And because of that baffling, they boil the water in about a minute and a half. So that's cool. So these are really neat. The downside on these is that they are they're dependent on these, and if you're going to go like on the Pacific Crest Trail or something like that, that if you can get resupply or something, you can do that. The IE show is dependent on Dave & Buster's needs to give me an open date and not charge me a deposit because I bring a big crowd of people who tip well and drink. So anyway, we're working on that. But yeah, these Optimus stoves, these are great. Also, are the actual old school Optimus. I'm an old collector of old stoves. But yeah, so this is, these are cool, and the whole thing. I am not a huge fan of noise though when I go camping, and so that's why I'm a big denatured alcohol, and also this has a windscreen also, dude. So I'm a big denatured alcohol proponent, just because it's so quiet. And my favorite denatured alcohol stove is this is a Swiss Meta 50, and this is actually from the Swiss Army in like 1949, 1950, and it is a bunch of nesting stoves and cooking things, and it buckles together quite nicely. And you take the lid off, and here's what you have. You have that dude. Then you have the bottom, and see this dude here. This is the base. It has an air intake there, and it has that well. This well will either hold that Swiss stove there or the original stove, this denatured alcohol stove, which fits perfectly in there. And you take this dude and you fill it with your denatured alcohol, blah, 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 blah. Then you put a little in this recess around here, and that heats up the brass, which is key because brass conducts heat very quickly. And denatured alcohol works by heating up the alcohol and then igniting it. It burns very efficiently. So that is in there like that, right? Then you take the next nesting pot like that. See what we're doing there? We're building a column. The air intake is there at the bottom. So the flame is contained completely in here. And so then we can take our actual cooking pots, and they sit right there. And then we can take our lid or whatever. So this is a great little system. It's called the Meta 50. They are they're very old. If you can find an original, it should be marked like that, or marked like that. But anyway, if you can find an original, then do. And they are terrific. They're light. They're quiet. They're really hard to break. And let me put that back in there like that. So anyway, it's called the Meta 50. All right, wait, hang on, I missed that. I want to see some what? Clever done. You're very clever. I want to see some dirty secret recipes to go with that cookware. Yeah, you know what? Oops, I forgot to put that in there. The other deal there is when you go camping, people always buy that, dehydrated shit, and all that. The best thing to take camping, if you're going to go out, and go hard, actually hike and get places. No, do not buy MREs for camping, by the way. Do not. Honestly, don't buy MREs for camping. I'm not even kidding. They stop you up. They're a very bad scene. They constipate you and the whole thing. What I do when I go camping with friends, and the point is to go 10 miles, 15 miles a day or more, is I bring the prepackaged Mahatma red beans and rice. Go to your rice aisle, and you can buy Mahatma, either black beans or red beans and rice. But buy the red beans and rice, and then buy or make your own beef jerky. And it's easiest to go to Costco and buy a whole bunch of beef jerky. And the key is, when you're boiling the red beans and rice, put the beef jerky in there with the boiling water, and it reconstitutes it. It's a lot easier to eat. And then, of course, this presumes that you're going to go camping near water sources, which I always do. So bring a good filter. If you're in the high Sierras, I got to say, in California, Giardia is not as big of a deal as it is up in the Northwest. Giardia lamblia, or beaver fever, as it's called, is a far bigger deal up in the Northwest, where you get a a big snow every winter, and the animals poo on the snow, and then it melts in a big melt. So you get a whole bunch of thawing poo pouring into streams instead of, you know, a poo once a week. You get a whole bunch of poo all at once, and you get these bacteria blooms that lead to giardia. And giardia is a very bad scene. You don't want to get it. One of my dogs got it once, you know, and it's like explosive diarrhea. And I've seen humans get it, and it's just a bad scene, a very bad scene. It's not as prevalent in the Sierras. Usually you can get water sterilization filters and things like that. But for giardia, if you just take iodine, if you bring an eye droplet of iodine and you put 2 droplets per liter in and let it sit, you're fine. And bring Mio, you know, the concentrated drink flavor, and that'll get rid of the you know, shitty iodine flavor. How about a how-to episode on cooking over a burning coil of C4? Well, and you know what? C4 burns, it just doesn't burn super fast. It's good for keeping water warm or making it warm for coffee. It's, you know, it's kind of a trick, if anything. It's kind of a parlor trick. It's not even a, you know, not your preferred method. I can tell you this, like at Fort Irwin and in the high desert, don't use creosote for your campfires. I'm partaking from the same tumbler of a different color. Yeah, the Yeti tumbler. Yeah, don't use creosote because that'll mark up all your cooking stuff. And then another thing, if you can get it, this is a rubber band from, you know, from broccoli. You know, I also call this a wallet. I keep all my credit cards together with one of these. But always take a strobe camping with you. That's you know, the best deal. And flashlights that claim that they're also strobes rarely are. But if you can find them, I'm not sure how civilian friendly these are. Oops, sorry. But this is an infrared strobe. This is a military thing called a Firefly. And there's 2 kinds. There's a programmable kind that has 2 metal posts sticking out of the Lexan. And when you take a penny and you connect them and you hold it down, it blanks out the strobe, right? And then you sit there with the metal and you click it like Morse code, and you can enter a code in there. So you can actually sit there and go ... dash 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 ... dash 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 ... and you can put a space in there. It gives you a 20-second loop that you can put something in there, right? Those are really cool. I've got those. I'm not supposed to have those, but this is just an IR strobe called a Firefly, and it couldn't be simpler. You take your 9-volt and you go like this, and boom. Bob's your uncle, right there. Infrared strobe. Robert's your mother's brother. If this were dark enough, you actually would be able to see a very, very faint red dot. The reason for an IR strobe when you go camping is because in many counties in Southern California, but especially LA County, the LA County fire dudes, the guys in the Blackhawks and the Firehawks, they have night vision and they have IR. They will be searching for you on IR, and also with their night vision, which is they will see an IR strobe like it's a regular white light strobe. First thing I think of when I hear IR strobe, Black Hawk Down. Yeah, back in the day in Desert Storm up until about 2000, I still have the old school strobes, which actually the old school IR strobe, which was, you know, bigger, and in all honesty, they were kind of delicate. This kind of IR strobe. Here's what's amazing about this strobe. You can put Velcro on the battery and put it on your helmet. You know, put it right there, boop, like that, as an IFF, so that the good guys don't think you're a bad guy. The other thing about this, and we found this out by experimenting in Iraq. The other thing about this is when you activate it, you can put it in a pocket, and because it's infrared, they will still see it 20 miles away. It's amazing. So you can put this back in the bag like this, and rubber band it, you know, when it's activated, like it is right now, and you can rubber band it to your hat, you know, to your rucksack or whatever. So that's the deal with an IR strobe. These should be, I'm going to say maybe 20 or 30 bucks at the most. And they are no longer export controlled. So I'm pretty sure you can get them on Amazon, or you can pick them up at gun shows, which are still legal in California. So that's another thing that I go camping with. I always take I'm a very light camper. Like I say, dried food, and you know, I go heavy on the water and the dried food and things like that, and light on the clothes. I do not, you know, when you're hiking, here's a tip: don't wear underwear. Treat it like you're in combat. Wear pants or loose shorts. Do they? I'm not sure. Do they have IR strobes? They might. Okay, 20 bucks on eBay. So boom, there you go. Change your socks. I do change. Yeah, well, that's nice, you know. And also, I'm not taking my 8-year-old daughter, you know, on a 4-day LERP walk, like on some Vietnam simulation, you know, crazy LERP walk. But I do have buddies who, like, I've got a bunch of friends coming through the Pacific Crest Trail in August, and they're going to stop here on my property for a couple days and fuck around. They're going to rest and recover, and we're going to put up a pool for them. So they're going to go. They're going to make the trek from San Diego to here, and then they'll hang out here for a couple days, and then I'm going to go with them from here, maybe up to Kernville, or something like that, and up to some of the Sierras. And that's how we're going to do it. Is, you know, it's sturdy boots, change your socks, always wear 2 layers of socks, no underwear, and then if you're not offending anybody, why change your T-shirt? Okay, and what you should do is, if you can camp near bodies of water, rinse it out, dry it on your backpack, dry your socks on your rucksack. I interchange backpack with rucksack. I mean to say rucksack, but no one knows what that means if you haven't served in the military. So anyway, and also bring your maps. Bring your plastic rainproof maps. Please know how to read a map. Meaning, if you can read a map, then you better be able to read use a lensatic compass. Please be able to use a lensatic compass. Whoever you are, please use a lensatic compass. There we go. Ooh. Oh, almost. There. Anyway, so even though we're living in the world of GPS, it's a nearly lost skill, but I am a disciple of the compass, because I'm an old school cavalry scout. We are at many thousands of feet in California's high desert. You will see behind me the red tails. You'll see CAL FIRE. Apparently there's a fire, I think in Santa Clarita. So you'll see and all that. See my air rifle target there, that giant piece of plywood with a rabbit. A ground's worst nightmare, a boot lieutenant with a map. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I've corrected. I mean, that's part of the reason I became an officer, was because I was exposed to so many dipshit lieutenants. You know, and it's sad when, you know, you're an E5 and you're the smartest guy in the vehicle, you're the smartest guy in the room, and you're correcting people on their map mistakes, you know, and things like that. Because it's so. The other thing I've discovered, and I do believe this, male or female, I do think there is an inherent spatial sense, because I have known men who cannot find their way out of, who lose all sense of direction. Nighttime, you know what? I'll give you a pass. Daytime, I don't understand people who can't orient themselves to a map. You know, I do not understand people who cannot, especially, you know, just take a fucking compass and orient themselves to that mountaintop and that mountaintop, and then find themselves on a map. And it's not a male or female thing. I know plenty of females who know how to use a map, and I know plenty of men who cannot use a map. So let's see. Here's another piece of gear. My company commander in Iraq, Captain Eric Lawless, who now is a military lawyer, but he was a great infantry company commander, and then he was a Seattle University lawyer. He actually taught military law at UCMJ at West Point, but he scored me this. And you're saying, well, what? It's a case carrying M82. Yes, on first glance it is. This is a quadrant. This is what's called a gunner's quadrant. Can you read that? And what this does is either on a mortar or more likely a for instance, a M102 105 millimeter howitzer, or a M109 Paladin, or the self-propelled howitzer, or the 1908 towed 155 millimeter howitzer, or now the new M777 towed 155. There's a space on the barrel close to the breech end that's actually molded at the factory and then factory flattened. And if you want to ping the computer system on your deflection, then what you do is you get out your gunner's quadrant, the old the Mike 1 Alpha 1 gunner's quadrant, and see, you head down here, it says line of fire. You put this on the cannon. The cannon is up here at, say, let's say it's at deflection 1150. You can check that with this spirit level. See, so whatever this says, this instrument is. I mean, we've tested this. This thing is absolutely balls on. It's pretty amazing. And when that level is level, and then you can fine tune it here. See right there, you can fine tune it, and this is the absolute. What you basically do with this is you confirm that the computer is accurate. That when it's telling you deflection 1250, this will confirm that. Can you define a firing? Oh, your message went away. Wait a minute. Can you define a firing solution? Everything shipboard was automated, so there was no one speaking manual targeting. A firing solution is all the combined, and it goes whoop, right there and there, and then it grows legs and it walks back to Yakima. The firing solution is the complete calculation between the observer location, target location, and firing location, taking into consideration all the various factors, interior and exterior ballistics, so that the likelihood of a first round fire for effect is possible. So the firing solution is, for instance, I am the gun, right? I'm shooting this way. And my observer is, actually, let me, how can I do this without, anyway, I'm the gun, my observer is that way, and the target is further back that way. So first thing I need to know, because my observer calls in and he says, hey, Red Leg 1, this is Scout 7. fire mission over. And I say, fire mission over. And he says, Mike Bravo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in my fire direction center in the FDC, the plotters are starting with his location, because when he gives a grid and an azimuth, when he says, like what a mission called a polar plot, and he says azimuth 0, 9er, 1, distance 3300 meters, 33.3 kilometers, they need to know, okay, where is 3,300 meters from this guy if he's looking 091 or whatever that azimuth was. So that's called the oblong. They need to know from where he's looking, where is that? Okay, so they plotted that, and they gave me an 8-digit grid. And an 8-digit grid gets me down to a 10-meter resolution. That's good enough for artillery. And so we get the grid, we send him a first round, a spotting round, shot out, shot over, splash out, splash over. Now my observer tells me in his line of sight, from his perspective, where did that round land in relation to the target. So when he says, add 200, right 100, fire for effect. The effect, E-F-F-E-C-T, that's all the guns firing on that data. And that's the effect, right? In the meantime, we're shooting a spotting round. So the difficulty in artillery, unlike naval gunfire, is in artillery, we're using a spotter, right? So our adjustments have to be from his perspective. We need to know if he's way off here to our right, if his angle at the target is more than 90 degrees off from where we are, that's called angle T, and he has to announce angle T. Because in other words, his add and drop is our left and right, because he's over here and we're here. We're shooting here at my nose, and he's over here looking at my nose. So when he says drop 100, let's say the round landed here. He says drop 100. He means put it here. To us, we have to go right 100. So that's part of the firing solution. Also, there are two factors called interior ballistics and exterior ballistics. Interior ballistics are everything up until the round leaves the tube. So that means literally propellant storage temperature. What is the temperature of the propellant? Because we have separate loading ammunition. You put the round in, and then you put the charge, as it's called, the propellant, in different increments depending on how far you want the round to fly. So the temperature of the propellant is a factor. The temperature of the shell is a factor. You seat the round in there, then you put the charges in there. The wear on the barrel is a factor. And every couple hundred rounds, you have to thread a chain down the barrel, and you attach it in the breech to a thing called a pullover gauge, which is a POG. And the POG is an extremely fine instrument that measures barrel wear. Because if you fire 2 rounds in a row and everything's absolutely perfect and identical, the second round will still be a little bit off because of wear on the barrel. So those are all the factors that lead to a firing solution. There's another one, two actually, and it's rotation of the earth, both laterally and longitudinally. And so all those factors yield a firing solution, as we say. And as a cavalry scout, my problem going through Field Artillery Officers Basic Course was, why not just send me a fucking round? Just, you know what? I'll give you a grid. Never mind the azimuth from me. Never mind any of that shit. I'm going to give you an 8-digit grid. Let's all agree that where that grid is. Send it. Just send me a round. I'll adjust on that round, and then you can fire for effect. But I need that shit right now. It was funny. I was talking with my friend Baghdad Dave, the Special Forces guy, and we were talking about what were we talking about? It was somehow we got on the subject of indirect fire and all this, and he said in his experience, 20 years in Special Forces, in combat and in exercises, he never got artillery in a timely fashion. Now, in World War II, oh, he was talking about the podcast when I was discussing Audie Murphy. In World War II, you know, it was a fine-oiled machine. The infantry artillery team was a fine-oiled machine, and they could get rounds out very quickly. And also, there were no JAGs. There were no lawyers in the tent. These days, you send a fire mission, and there's some captain in the tent with his head up his ass with two handsets, and he's going, and he's doing the penguin drill, going, is the airspace clear? Are there any helicopters? And you know, there's a theory, the big sky, little bullet theory, and it's this. It's like, you know what? If there's any air support, the likelihood of these rounds hitting it are almost nil. Just get them away from the target, and we'll all be good. But artillery rounds in high angle sometimes can peak out at 30,000 feet, you know, with a 45-second time of flight, or at low angle, you know, they can maybe crack 10,000 feet. But there's the big sky, little bullet theory, which I subscribe to. It's just that one day in Korea, someone shot a plane out of the air with an artillery round because the plane got in the air. Just that the likelihood of that is just so extraordinarily, you know, unlikely that I'd be willing. I'll go ahead and sign for that. Just give me my goddamn artillery. In my experience as a cavalry, as a reconnaissance squadron executive officer, a recce squadron XO, it was a really cool job. I was an enlisted cavalry scout, and then after Iraq, I came back to the cavalry into armored recce, and I was in charge of a two-tube, a two-gun, 120 millimeter smoothbore mortar section. And I have it up on YouTube. I'll share it on the Dark Secret Place website. But my mortar NCO, my mortar maggots, were so fucking good. That system, the 120 millimeter smoothbore mortar, is so astoundingly accurate in the hands of a good NCO. And my guy was a wizard. He was in law school, by the way. He was a regular Army mortarman. He was so good. His crew was so good. They could have 6 rounds in the air at any one time. As the first round was impacting, the 6th one was getting launched. And so they could go hang it, fire, boom, hang it, fire, boom. And the system is so accurate that he could sit there and he could shack a barrel at Yakima Firing Center at 3,500 meters. It was astounding. The guy was so good, and I became a huge believer in that mortar system. And the main reason I liked it was because if my scouts called back to the XO and they wanted fire support, I didn't go through a goddamn lawyer. I authorized it. I sent it. It was the scout at the OP to me, and me to the mortars. Me approving the fire mission. And it was doubly lucky because I was a field artillery trained officer. So I knew double down what I was doing. I wasn't some infantry dipshit or some armored dipshit who had never done any indirect fire. I was an artillery officer, and so I knew how good my mortars were. And I will tell you what, you can take a 6-tube, 155 millimeter howitzer battery, and you can take me with 2 120 millimeter mortars and start it at the beginning, start it at the observer back to the guns, and I'm here to tell you that my 2 mortar tubes will have that target suppressed or destroyed, which are our two categories, main ones. Suppressed or destroyed. We will have it suppressed or destroyed, I swear to God, in 4 minutes. And those howitzers, in 4 minutes, they're still going to be having the fire mission approved. They haven't even got to the lawyer yet. So I will take my mortars any day. So those are some random thoughts on that. Hey, how about ISIS and Mosul? They're not actually breaking up. It's not the end of ISIS. They're now metastasizing, but the Iraqis are retaking Mosul, and also there's a significant American special forces presence in Raqqa, and now they are so operating in the open that they're not even hiding their faces. A battery is the equivalent of a company. A infantry company is 3 or 4 platoons of 36 to 48 guys, depending on whether you're talking about the Army or the Marine Corps. a Army platoon is 3 squads, 3 squads of 12 guys. A Marine platoon is 4 squads of slightly more guys. So a Marine platoon's bigger. Anyway, but basically there's 3 platoons in a company and then a weapons platoon, like in a Marine company. So that's the basic structure of an infantry company. A artillery battery is the and let me back up. So it goes platoon, 3-4 platoons in a company, and then 3 or 4 companies in a battalion. Well, in an artillery battalion, it's still called a battalion, infantry battalion, tank battalion. In an artillery battalion, there's 3 batteries, and each battery is 2 3-tube platoons. There's 2 platoons in a battery, and each platoon has 3 guns. And so that's what a battery is. It's 6 tubes. And so when they order up, and you have an SOP, if your observer says, hey, there's tanks on the road, you have a battery or battalion SOP, and tanks on the road, 5 tanks on the road, your SOP will say that requires a battery 6 or a battery 3. And a battery 3 means all 6 tubes fire 3 rounds for a total of 18 rounds. Sometimes you get a battery 6 for 36 rounds. So the shorthand is, and sometimes if you're a good observer, you can say, hey, send me a battery 3. And so each tube will fire 3 rounds, and you can send it as at my command or when ready. And so if you want to do an at my command, then you know the time of flight. Maybe the time of flight is 22 seconds, and you want it to intercept a bunch of tanks at an intersection. Then your eyeballing 22 seconds before they hit where you have the impact zone. Then you say, at this time, fire now. Time now, fire. So, and if you want the mission to get fired again, you say repeat. That's why on military artillery nets, in fact, any military tactical net, if you want someone to say what they just said, you don't say repeat, you say again. Repeat means send that fire mission again. Also, cease fire is a gigantic pain in the ass. Nobody does cease fire. What you do is you say cease loading. Cease fire means that you have a round in the tube, and taking a round out of the tube is like the most gigantic pain in the ass of all time. It's not as bad as repairing track on June 30th at Fort Irwin on an M1 tank, but it's pretty goddamn close because you have to offload out of a hot gun the rounds. So no one says cease fire. You say cease loading. So they fire that last round. Bloop. And it goes bloop. So yeah, you don't say cease fire. Only in the movies do they go cease fire, cease fire. No, with artillery you say cease loading, cease loading, cease loading. And then the gun bunnies go cease loading. I'm really fat. Cease loading. So there. No, I was in the Krasnovian army. The Krasnovia was the notional country, the Republic of Krasnovia, the People's Republic of Krasnovia, that bordered the Republic of Mojave. The Fort Irwin in the 80s and 90s at the high tide of the National Training Center, Fort Irwin was a scenario, and a unit from like Fort Leavenworth or Fort Benning, they would come to Fort Irwin for a month, like it was a deployment, right? And they would deploy to a friendly country called the Republic of Mojave. And the Republic of Mojave was dealing with a counterinsurgency, and there was an impending invasion by their enemy and neighbor called Krasnovia. And so we would, as the op force, the opposition force, when I was in Scout Platoon, 1st Battalion, 221 Armor in Nevada, we flew into Bicycle Lake at Fort Irwin on the C-130 from Fallon, Nevada. And we wore the OPFOR uniform, which is the desert uniform, but with red stars on our beret and black stars. And it said OPFOR and our name. And we called ourselves Krasnovians, and we saluted like this, you know, and the whole deal. And we drove what are called VisMods, or visual modifications. We drove Humvees that looked like Soviet scout vehicles. And so we knew Fort Irwin like the back of our hand. That's why the American force that came in there to fight us, they always had their asses handed to them, and they still do, because they're supposed to. They're supposed to, in the initial context, they're supposed to completely lose their asses, because otherwise it's not training, is it, right? But later on, as they got better during the scenario, we frankly let them win, but they did get better. Yeah, the TOW missile simulation system is really wacky. It's really weird. The war at Fort Irwin and at Fort Polk, the other training centers, it's fought with lasers, right? So, well, lasers are instantaneous. How do you simulate the time of flight of a cannon round? Well, the laser doesn't fire for like a second and a half. It fires at the normal time of flight. Well, how do you do it with a TOW missile? Because a TOW missile goes like that, and it takes 8 seconds to get 3,000 meters. So how do you simulate with a laser a TOW kill? Well, as a scout, we had this thing called the ATWES, the Anti-Tank Weapon System Simulator, right? And it was a regular TOW round. And so you had to do the regular drill. You had to load it in correctly, clamp it down, and then fire the thing, right? And then you had to track it. You had to keep it tracked for 8 seconds, and then at 8 seconds, it would fire the laser. And if you got something, you got it. Like one time I shot the helicopter down at Fort Polk. But what it also did, the reason the ATWES, the main deal about the ATWES was in the back, there was a big, gigantic pyrotechnic, and it looked like... It was almost this size, and it was a black powder charge, and you shove it in the back of the TOW, and what it does is it gives a gigantic white smoke cloud, just like a real TOW missile. Now, a TOW missile does not look like a fucking forest fire. It's a big burst of dust. It's mainly dust and some propellant, but it's not a big, gigantic white cloud. So in the first place, they were kind of fucking over people with the TOW system, with the ATWES, the black powder charge, but they got to do something, right? And they had to let the enemy have a shot at finding out where you were, because as a scout on a Humvee, you hide over the crest of a hill. Like here's a hill, and you drive up here to where the gunner can look over the top of the hill, and that's called the military crest. You don't drive the vehicle up here because now you're skyline. So you drive here so that the gunner can look over the hill, and that's called the military crest. So they would still give us that simulator so that the enemy could see where we were with a giant cloud. So I disagreed intellectually with the very premise. All right, should I make it an even hour, or what are we doing here? And the sim rounds are heavy concrete. Oh, I know. Yeah. And also, you know, and you're talking about the actual live TOW the simulator round, right? Because yeah, the simulated TOW has a cement warhead in it, not C4, not the actual shaped warhead. The TOW simulations that we fired at at Indian Springs, which is now Creech Air Force Base. What we used to do is we would fire every year. We had to fire our TOWs down there. So we would fire the sim rounds first and then the live rounds. And the deal is, because TOWs pay out this really fine wire, they would always make us police up the wire. But they wouldn't let us drive a vehicle down the range because there was all this unexploded shit down there. And we'd be like, well, you're letting us walk down there, but we can't drive down there? And you want us, because they would always get pissed because we wouldn't fire at the far target. And the TOW missile can go 3,750 meters, 3,750 meters, right? Like 2 3/4 miles. And we would never fire at those targets because if you can hit the 500-meter target, stationary. You can hit the 3,750 meter target stationary. But no fucking way are we going to walk 4 kilometers and back just to police up the wire just to prove that point. So we would fire always at the short target, and our commander would get pissed at us. But it was gunner's choice, and so we would. What happened one time was we put the simulated rounds through the same fiberglass tank head-on target, right? We put the simulated rounds through, and they made this hole, and then we fired the first live tow at it, and there was no explosion, right? And then about 1,000 meters beyond the target, there's an explosion. Well, what happened was the gunner sent the real tow through the hole that the simulated tow made, and it went whoop right through there, and it was pretty funny. I thought I was the only one hating on his barbecue in the background. You know what? I bought a cast iron frying pan last night, and it sat there curing. Because when you buy cast iron skillets, first you wash it out with soap and water, and then you take like pork fat or bacon ends and pieces, and you start a big fire with mesquite. You start a big charcoal fire, and you put the cast iron skillet in that fire, and you put a whole bunch of bacon fat in there, a bunch of salt pork or whatever, and let it just sit there cooking for hours and hours and hours. And you heat up the iron, you open up the pores in the iron, and you cure it. And that's how you get that initial excellent non-stick on a cast iron skillet. And then, by the way, when you do have that and you use it over the life of the skillet, you do not use Comet or an SOS pad or anything like that. You just simply use a soft brush, nylon brush, a little bit of soap and water, and you let it air dry, and then you coat it with oil. So I love my cast iron skillets, but it annoys me when, like, people I'm married to don't know how to take care of that kind of stuff. So she doesn't watch YouTube, so don't worry. Yeah. Any kind of I use grapeseed oil with most of my cooking, because grapeseed oil has a really high smoke thingy. Yeah, I don't use those little lunar lander I only use those for like melting lead, for whatever that might be, and stuff like that. So I have a great barbecue back. I mean, it's like an outside fireplace. It's huge. And that's the other thing, is because, like, I'll leave it out, and I will because I like letting the bacon grease congeal, and then I let my let my dog, one of my dogs, Bubby, gets first shot at the bacon grease, and then I do clean the dog spit off of it. I used to reload 308 and 300 Win Mag, and then my buddy Baghdad Dave started, when he retired from the Army, he started doing that full time, and he's doing like 100 308s per hour, and he listens to the podcast and stuff like that. And so I give him my brass. I give him my 300 Blackout brass on that. Also, if you're just joining us, that magazine ban, that High Cap magazine ban, starting tonight at midnight, apparently that's off. That's been delayed because of a court filing. So I was, Dogtown on A&E, that place where they have, you just drop your dogs off in southern Utah. I'm gonna start Magtown, where you can drop your mags off. And I already have some classics here. I've got Magpul 30, Magpul 40, the Surefire 60 rounder, the HK Metal, the most expensive magazine, the fucking HK 30, which I bought it just to have it. Okay, it's a great magazine. Okay, the follower doesn't tip, it won't misfeed, whatever. but it doesn't do anything that goddamn surplus Israeli Orlite doesn't do. Which, by the way, if you can get those Israeli Orlites, I would show you one, but of course they're not here in California or whatever the law is. I grandfathered them all in. But the Israeli Orlites seem like they're kind of flimsy. And Orlite is Orlite. Scoop those up. Sportsmansguide.com is where I used to get them by the bag full. Get like 30 of them in a bag for like $100, and I took them to Iraq, and I couldn't destroy them. I mean, the Israeli Orlites were terrific, and this is right before Magpul came out. Magpul is the industry standard. There's some other polymer magazines like Hex Mag and all that. I'm not so into them, but Magpul are just great. The other great thing about Magpul is that you can paint them. You can spray paint them, and you can subdue them and give it your other color. I'm going to Pacific Northwest Arms, PNW Arms, for all your ammo needs, including subsonic 5.56, subsonic 300 blackout, subsonic 22 LR, and all that. I'm probably going to get mine out of the state because I want to be in compliance, don't I? So it's getting really hard to live here. I'm a little behind on the Maven. The Maven launches tomorrow on July 1st, but a lot of the content is from a content partner who's an anti-jihad guy. So on the Maven.net, you'll be seeing a lot of my military stuff. You'll be seeing some other guys moderating rooms, and that's what they're called as moderators. They'll be content producers, but they'll moderate because I'm going to have on the Maven. I'm going to have a counterterrorism blog, military technology blog. There's going to be a law enforcement blog, and it'll be run by a former San Bernardino and Rialto, 2 police officers from SB and Rialto. And they'll be doing new firearms because they own a gun shop. So they'll be doing new firearms tech, and law enforcement stuff. And then there'll be a gaming part of it. I don't know how many of you, according to my YouTube demo, 90% of you are men, and you are between 29 and 55. So I don't know how many of you game like Arma 3 or Battleground, or any of those, but I do, and I swear if you do it, you'll be into it. It's a lot of fun, because Facebook wants to bring a Dark Secret Place live channel. When Facebook begins the streaming and the monetized streaming that they're doing, and then the original content like Netflix. This is going to be one of the things that they're expanding into, is getting people like you to play some of these games. Now, the big problem with these games is that a lot of times, like Arma 3, you have some 17-year-old or 14-year-old Korean with amazing eye-hand thumb coordination, and he's kicking your ass because he does nothing but play the game. He knows all the keyboard shortcuts, right? The reason that friends of mine like Angry Tom, the Delta Force guy, roll their eyes at video games is because there's no chaos factor. When you're running in those games, you never trip. You never there's not a unseen rock. Your weapon never malfunctions. There's no chaos factor. If you could put in a chaos factor and make it a little more realistic, where competence would be paid off instead of keyboard commands, then those dudes would be involved. So that's what we're going to do through Facebook, through a company that streams a bunch of gaming stuff right now, and they happen to be Dark Secret Place fans. We're going to set up a server where you guys can either come onto a YouTube channel, or you can play. You can go and you can buy Arma 3 or whatever mod we use, and we can get into our own server for like men 35 and older, and we'll have like LA County SWAT guys, the LA County SEB, the Special Enforcement Bureau. I know personally guys on the SEB that do a lot of gaming. Also, Simi Valley SWAT, LAPD SWAT, they all have guys that love doing gaming. And so it would be really, really fun if you were on a server with other people who are kind of serious, who maybe want to walk you through actual techniques of how to clear a building or something like that. And there's a guy in France who did a LAPD mod for Arma 3 where everyone is skinned LAPD, all the gear is LAPD, and so I'm just laughing because the guy said so fond of cocks. So get it? And you know what? I believe the Frenchman's name is Hugh Jardin. I think that's his actual name is Hugh Jardin. I might be mispronouncing it. But for instance, we could do on some Saturday morning or Sunday morning before the Seahawks game or the Cougs, we might do a demonstration where like LAPD is going to clear a building. We'll do like a common scenario. There'll be like a 4-story building with 10 terrorists and 5 hostages or whatever. And the LAPD gamers will get a helicopter or 2 helicopters. They can do an insertion, and you can switch around from player to player. And you can see the lead guy on the stack and see how they clear a room. And also listen to how they communicate. And that would be fascinating, right? Also, Special Forces guys, they're right in the cohort. Guys in their mid-30s, because they play these games anyway. They just don't play against kids. And so that would be something that I would do. And if you are someone who's into gaming and you're a little more serious because you actually maybe have real firearms, it would be a great way to teach tactical technique and things like that. So, yeah, you can. Go ahead and play laser tag with Sofonda Cox. That would be really, really fun. But anyway, it would just be a feature, like I say. Well, it's been an hour. I think it's time for the group hug. And unless there's no more questions. Unless there are questions. Well, the Zazzle store for Dark Secret Place is still up. You can go check that out. I've got mouse pads and stuff like that. But the artist, the friend of mine who created the Dark Secret Place logo, the red wolf biting a bullet and a trench knife, she's going to be in charge of putting out car stickers, QR stickers, things like that. Fastest mag loader is this, or the Maglula, the Israeli Maglula. Once you learn how to use those things, they're really, really, really super, super easy. They're especially easy for unloading. For my KIA bracelet, it was the soldier's mother, Shirley Schmunk, who lost her son Jeremiah right before he turned 21 on July 8th, on the night of July 8th. She's the one, when we returned from Iraq, she had these for us at the Charlie Company Armory in Moses Lake, Washington. She was a single mom. He was her only kid. Really, really good kid. Really, really awesome kid. So we've been over this, Jim. I use salt pork or bacon ends and pieces. So, yeah. But yeah, the Maglula, if you don't know what that is, it clips onto the top of any AR-15 mag. They all have certain common features, like the detent button and all that. And they're just terrific. Yeah, I'll do a stream, I don't know, maybe Sunday for disaster prep. Because that's where a lot of this stuff that I showed at the top of the thing. Well, Lauren Savant's texting me. What'd she say? Anyway, like this at the top of the broadcast, I talked about. So there. California compliant loader which loads while still in the lower receiver. I've seen that. Yeah, the thing that clips onto the ejection port. Did you get a donate fest for Peshmerga? Any updates on how that went? It went well. Most of the Americans left the gear behind. That was one of the stipulations was, look, we're not buying personal gear for you. We're buying it for the unit. The British guy who was the initial lead or initial contact, we had to cut ties with him because he turned out to be fleeing child molestation charges in Britain. So, oops. So we cut ties with him, and we liaised with a guy from the Bay Area who was a bit of a soup sandwich, a bit of a lost soul, but he got the stuff there. And then the guys who wound up being the most reliable are actually on Instagram as Peshmerga Nor and Peshmerga Swe. It's a Norwegian dude and a Swedish guy who fought for the Peshmerga. And so that they were far more dependable than the Americans. So they were, the Americans tend to be sort of weird lost souls who have no combat experience. And they want to get their war on, so they go and they join the YPG in Syria. And what they don't know is they're possibly joining a communist terrorist group because of their ties with the Turkish PKK. But they want to get their war on, they get their war on. But I can't imagine being in combat with someone without common training. That is a nightmare. That's a fast track to Valhalla right there. So I would want to know, is this guy next to me, did he go to Marine boot camp or Army basic? Okay, so we have some common things, common hand-at-arm signals, and at the very least, he's trainable. And if the guy went to Army basic training, but he went on to become a truck driver, then at least we have that common thing. Peshmerga. They do some light screening. They prefer guys with military or medical experience. They will make a medic out of you and all that. But basically, if you have U.S. military experience, they assume that you're like fucking Rambo, and they'll get you out there. But their main problem is language. They don't like integrating you into the Peshmerga units until you can display, a facility with Kurdish. Now, my friend Angry Tom, the Delta Force guy, he has been off and on in Kurdistan for over 7 years. He was the head of Falcon Security, which is the private security firm that the government of Kurdistan owns that takes care of all their elected officials and all that. He trained all those guys, and most of them are really, really, really competent. So I would go with those guys. But the Syrian Kurds seem to be kind of a soup sandwich, but they're being whipped into shape by Navy SEALs and mainly Special Forces guys, because Navy SEALs, they don't train. That's not their job, right? They're a strike assault group, kind of like Rangers. Special Forces parachute into your country and they organize the local tribesmen and they make a militia and they train the trainers. And then the trainers train more natives and all that. So there's that. Yeah, I haven't been on Fox 11 for a while because Lauren's not on in the evenings, and they got a new producer. The producer that used to bring me on is no longer there. So it's been a while. I'm on Kennedy, as you guys know. I'm on Kennedy all the time. And then yesterday, her producer, and I sent that out on Dark Secret Place, her producer texted me and said, "Will you come on Kennedy next week?" And I was like, sure, and I'll appear on her show too. But we all had a laugh about it. I said phrasing. No, I don't get paid for those appearances because I'm not a contributor. When you're a contributor, you have to be on the East Coast, or you have to be able to drop everything, and so that's where like KFI kind of pays me. To be available, that's why I'm doing Dark Secret Place and other movies and things like that. So the Facebook thing, the Facebook Dark Secret Place will be like a weekly situation room. But if there is some shit that's going to hit the fan, what we'll do is probably have a situation room in the KFI studio, so I can go on the air on KFI, but also we'll have cameras so we can do a Facebook Live, and I'll be able to send like an iPad with Google Earth on it. And I can put marks on it. So if you're listening to KFI and then following on the web, on Facebook, or just getting that feed, then you'll get the full experience. Yeah, like I say, there is no way that the Russians are going to challenge us and tell the Syrians, yeah, go ahead, use the chemical weapons anyway and slime those fuckers. They're not going to do that. And that was the main thing, is they were embarrassed that they got called out. They don't like being called out on stuff like that. So that's probably the end of chemical weapons from Bashar Assad. However, you can probably count on him to do some sort of, fake false flag, blame it on the rebels kind of a thing. All right. Well, I'm running out of beverage, so that means that we might be in the final 2 minutes of Friday Live. I'll start doing this Friday Live. Yeah, a big arms sale to Taiwan, which is filled with Chinese, but the good kind of Chinese. Is it a convenient time? It's almost 6. What's a good time for Friday Live Friday? Yeah, you know who else is old school? The Russians. They may have put a new coat of paint on the Gulag, and they may change up the flag or whatever. But as a lot of people are finally learning, the Soviet Union had more to do with Russians than it did with communism. Just because you change its name from the Empire of Russia to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics to the Federation of Independent States, or whatever they called themselves at the 92 Barcelona Olympics, to Russia, it's got more to do with the Russian character. And the Russian character has a gigantic helping of inferiority complex. And this goes back in Russian history, like I talked about on the podcast last night. This goes back in Russian history, back to Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. They have always felt like Europe didn't appreciate them and didn't treat them like real, real Europeans, when they have a very high culture, poetry, literature, dancing, and all that. But yeah, it's got way more to do with Russia's inferiority complex than communism. So, all right. Wait, what was that? I missed that last one. Surely if the FSB changes this acronym again, yeah. Alrighty. Oh, by the way, it was the 75th anniversary of the SVR. Was that right? Putin, who came from the overseas intelligence branch of the KGB, which is called the SVR, he held a commemoration for the anniversary of the SVR. The Russian espionage is overwhelmingly done by the military, which is called the GRU. The KGB was primarily concerned with internal security, but they had an external intelligence arm called the SVR. And so the SVR are the guys who are in America now. The GRU are the guys who are in the Antelope Valley, watching Air Force Plant 42 and all that. So, all right. Well, since I'm out of beverage, I guess that means we're done, and we'll see you tomorrow night on The Dark Secret Place. And I'm filling in for John and Ken on Monday and Tuesday, which is July 3rd and July 4th. So I'm filling in on July 3rd and 4th on the John and Ken show. So join in, won't you please?